much. It is a pleasure for you joining us on today as we are partnering with the VA hospital as we are honoring and recognizing the Whole Health Month. And this is Let's Talk Whole Health Part 1 with our special guest, our registered nurse, Brandy Taylor. I am so excited that you have joined us and that you want to join this movement and have a healthy lifestyle with whole health. Please put your hands together and let's welcome our beloved sister, friend, registered nurse, Brandy Taylor.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. And thank you just for the invite to allow me to be here to speak on something that's so passionate, even though we do this at VA, but it's something that is rated E for everyone, whole health. And that's also the premise of Whole Health Month is called Staying Connected. And that's one of the wonderful things that you guys do at Junior League, as well as the other hats that you wear is to stay connected in the community. We also want to make sure that you stay connected with yourself and as well as self-care. So with that, I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll get into this. I'm very excited for it. Okay. Which are you seeing the screen where it's just one slide that you're able to see?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure. So let's talk whole health. Looking also now at this poster, if you guys want to put in the chat, or you can also just do your virtual hand. How many of us feel like we're mindful? It's full of stuff, it's full of tasks, our interpersonal responsibilities that we have? Or are you really feeling mindful, being in the present moment, and really starting to break down the fallacy that one, no one can really do multitasking as perfectly as it's been said. Our brains and our bodies really need to monotask from time to time and really learning the power of pausing. And as you pour into so many people in your professional as well as personal things, we have to make sure that we drink as we pour so that we make sure that we won't either get disconnected or start to run our bodies down by not having that self-care. So with that, I would like to welcome you guys again. If any brave soul would feel comfortable about coming off mute when I say the welcome and say, I want to ask, does anyone already have some self-care practices that they're doing for themselves? Or what did you like to do the most when you were 8 years old? I know for some of us, including me, I kind of have to dust that off for a second, but really just to ponder, what did I like to do when I was 8 years old? And if there are any self-care activities that I'm already doing for myself, if anyone would like to put their voice in the room.
This is Mimi Johnson. So I actually try my very best to get a massage once a month.
Okay.
That is definitely one of my self-care things that I do for myself. And I think when I was 8 years old, what I loved to do most was read. And I still do that. I'm part of my sorority has a book club and we pick a book and read every month and discuss it. So I'm still doing it, but I am still very much stressed out. So I'm excited about what you're going to share with us today.
Right. And I understand. And one, thank you for sharing and thank you for your transparency. So anyone else would like to share self-care things or something you did when you were 8 years old that you love to do?
This is Angela. When I was 8, I think I used to like going outside a lot. And sometimes, especially now that the weather's good, I'll get back into it on a more regular basis, is going outside and walking in the park, listening to like books or different podcasts or something while I'm out in the park. But I like walking in the park.
Right. I like that. And we're going to get into that too. It's the power of nature and kind of just being out there and moving your body. So thank you, ladies, for sharing. And it's going to be more of why I asked that question as we get a little bit more into this today. So here are going to be our objectives for our time together. Again, thank you for giving me grace. I know that we do have still a hard stop at 12:30, and we will get all that content in there. But one, just to really discover what whole health is. I think some people have a different type of definition of what that could be and what it looks like, and really to reflect on what matters most to you. I want you to discover your why. So why are you doing the things that you do so that it can be tied to your values and your belief system, and then to make sure that you have actions that are aligning with those values, health values, as well as boundaries that we'll get into. Looking at what are some self-care activities that you can start to do in your own life, small things that can still build up so that we won't feel stressed out or so that we can still feel connected. And then looking and exploring mindfulness, what it is, how you can create it in your life, and the attitudes of mindfulness about really how that is shaped so you can kind of say, well, where is the blueprint to make sure I'm doing mindfulness right if I do decide to bring that on. And finally, exploring the triangle of awareness that goes into a mindfulness practice. So here what we have is the circle of health. This is really saying where we had a lot of nurses, people in the mental health fields, for psychiatrists and psychologists, nutritionists as well, to say if we really look at self-care domains with self-care, what does self-care look like? And to remind everyone that self-care is not selfish. Now, massages, they are wonderful. They're great, and let's go get our nails done, let's go to the spa. But we also want to look at things that really take active doing on our part and not passive activities to one, connect and really get to know yourself again, to maybe explore some areas that you may be intentionally neglecting or not really aware that you should have been paying attention to that and nurturing that. And then the thing that all of us humans try to do is to push away from things that are of discomfort or feelings that may arise, or our thought processes that may be discomforting to us, but for us to really lean into that and embrace it, because eventually you're still going to have to face that. So looking at this circle of health, we're going to start with being in the center. That's you. You're your number one player, and you're really the most important person in your life. Even though I know people say, well, no, I have kids and then I have my profession. But first, you would have to be first so that you can be able to give to these other people, right? And also with putting yourself in the circle, we really look for you to advocate for all of your whole health. And so that's going to be your mental, physical, financial, also sexual health, and then financial health. Because a lot of times people just think, it's when you bring up the word health, we normally just think about those physical things that may be going on, but we're looking at the whole gamut of that there. And whole health is definitely steeped in mindful awareness, which is being fully present intentionally on that very moment, but without judging it and just holding it in gentle awareness. So as we go across this circle of health today, one, I want you to hold everything with gentle awareness. If you can say to yourself, I never thought about doing that. Let me explore this area a little bit more. Starting at 12 o'clock on the circle of health, you can see that this first self-care domain is moving the body. And so I'm also an Air Force veteran, but when I went to basic training many moons ago, I cannot move the way I did at that time, right? And I'm sure that probably lands or resonates with some others. But even just getting started with something small, if you want to get up and say, I want to make sure that I'm going to walk for 15 minutes each day, or you can even put on your favorite artist in music and say, I'm going to dance just in my living room for 4 songs. And depending on if that artist have a lot of runs and ad libs in their song, you've already moved your body for at least 20 or 30 minutes. It's getting very warm outside. Some of us are gardeners, and just being out and moving that body. So we want to make sure that it's not sometimes very strict and activities that you have to do in a gym or to lift weights, but just moving that body is so important for our physical as well as our emotional health. It also helps us with dopamine, which is also a feel-good hormone, that when we do move. And I see some people are already saying, well, I'll go to the park and I move my body as well, even dance class if you want to do that. Then we're moving to surroundings. So surroundings you can see here, we're looking at physical as well as emotional surroundings. We know that energy is palpable. So when you have to have different interactions with people on all relationship levels, I want you to, again, try to be that mindful awareness to say, when I'm around this person, does my heart sing, or do I actually feel maybe a tightness in my chest, shallow breathing? And just again, to be mindful aware if that's really best for your whole health and for your self care. And then learning how to create healthy boundaries with that emotional part of surroundings. But then we also have the physical part. And so, physical part is thinking about this is really anything that's dealing with our five senses. So, smell, is there aromatherapy or candles that you want to bring into your home, or just bringing nature into your home with plants? It may be, I want to rearrange my furniture or take on a DIY project so that my surroundings in my home can be more conducive to what lifts me up and brings me joy. Personal development. Everyone here is going to get a gold sticker. And just like Ms. Gray said, you guys will be able to get those hours from Junior League, and some also friends in the community that wanted to learn a little bit more about self-care. But we're looking at the personal life as well as your work life. So for some, that can be continuing education credits, saying that I would like a certification, or even going back to advance your degree. So that would be on the work life. But then on your personal life with personal development, I like to look at this as, what do I want to be more of? Do I want to be more grateful? Would I like to be more kind or more forgiving? And so, again, for you to kind of have that self awareness to say, this is the area I would like to grow in my personal development, because it's not just what we do with our careers, but how we grow as a person and continue to challenge ourselves in healthy ways for that. Food and drink. How many of us, and you don't even have to do it on the virtual hand, but I'm going to raise my hand for you guys, are foodies. We love food, we love festivals, we love things that are surrounding food. Uh, Normally in American culture and in other cultures that happens as well. But with this part, when we're looking at self-health, um, self-care in food and drink, is that we really want to be able to identify what is your attitude with food. And then where did that attitude or narrative come from? Whether that was when in childhood, for some people that have been in the military, or just some of the thoughts that you tell yourself when it comes to food. And it may be at that point, it could be an opportunity to reframe some things. I won't A long time ago, my mother would always say, eat everything on your plate because there are children in blank that are starving, right? So that is still, and even though that may have been factual, that could be a story that could be deep seated with that. But to also, how do I say, am I a stress eater? Or do I eat less when I am stressed? And then what foods do I gravitate to? And is that helping or harming my whole health? This is where you can also ask for a consult to a nutritionist. Majority of our insurance, like Blue Cross Blue Shield, I know from one, also Aetna, as well as United Healthcare. After you go to your primary care provider, you can ask for a consult to a nutritionist so that you can really say, how can I begin to eat healthier? Then we also have drink on there, because we know we shouldn't have to drink our calories, but this is also a part of really making sure that we're not getting more drinks that should be after 5 p.m. or alcoholic drinks, and to make sure that that's not a way that we're coping with something in a way that's not healthy for us. One tidbit is that when we were at the height of COVID in March and June of 2021, the CDC reported that alcohol sales went up by 300%. So we want to just make sure that we can, have a gentle awareness around that, so that things do not get out of hand. Now we're at 6 o'clock on the clock with recharge. We have to be able to sleep well before we can be fully present in our lives with others, but not just about sleeping. This is where we also want to say, make sure that you take a little mental health break throughout the day, whether that's just 5 minutes or at the top of the hour, to connect to your breathing, Staycations are still very fun and needed, but make sure that you are recharging that battery. And there are some people that I've talked to, they say for recharge, I make sure I do not disturb on my phone after 9 p.m. or, after a particular time, just creating those boundaries. Family, friends, and coworkers. We definitely know how important relationships are. We definitely can't be an island to ourselves. And when it really comes to the word illness, whether that's a physical illness or mental health illness, the I in illness is actually isolation, because that's normally the first thing that we as humans will pull away from when we actually need those people the most as far as on that team. So this is another way that you can make sure you're doing self-care to say, have I been pulling out of a lot of engagements or not returning phone calls? Am I starting to isolate because things at work may be stressful, or I'm just feeling stretched too thin? But to be able to have that awareness and then circle back to kind of get back into the people that can be part of your self-care with family, friends, and coworkers. Spirit and soul. We're not here to tell you who or what to believe in, but we definitely know from evidence-based people that are attached to a higher power, and then the communities sometimes that higher power come from. Normally, they live longer, they have a stronger satisfaction in life, and seem to have a lot more resiliency with the curveballs that come from life. So this is a great self-care opportunity for you to take with your spiritual and soul health. And then for others, spirit and soul can be through creating, whether that is music, art, poetry, and also being out in nature. Last, we have power of the mind, because our power of the mind, the things that are in between these two ears, can be the strongest weapon. But we want to make sure that that weapon is for good and not for bad when it comes to our self-care and when it comes to our mental. So some things with power of the mind that you can think about doing for self-care, it's mindfulness, also positive affirmations, but also trying to silence that inner critic, because we all have an internal dialogue. And when things happen or they don't go as planned, make sure that you talk to yourself the way you would talk to a best friend, or even the way you would talk to a child in an endearing way versus adding more stress by having that inner critic become loud. And then you follow what um, that is. And then you follow that frame of mind versus the frame of mind that's going to be more gentle with you. So I know that was a lot, but just for us to pause right now, look at that circle of health, and then just for yourself, you can kind of put it in your mind, which one of these may I be doing well in already? And then which one do I probably need to explore and nurture some of that when it comes to self-care in my life? Whole health really looks at proactive components of well-being instead of being in that reactionary mode. The prevention and treatment is also still part of your self-care, making sure you get your doctor's appointments and, mammograms and diagnostic testing. But the other part of whole health is we're also exploring complementary approaches to care. So these would be things like acupuncture, clinical massage, and mindfulness, just to name a few. So to wrap this all up and to put it together, whole health is one, putting you in the center, making sure that you do that self-care, have the professional care, build a community, what you guys do with Junior League and many other things that you are a part of. And that is what equals whole health. And then we'll get to one self-care that's very important and dear to me, which is mindful awareness. I've already said that I am a proud Air Force veteran, served in Operation Enduring Freedom and went to Kuwait back in 2003. And even though I was very proud and patriotic to be doing that for my country, there were some things over there. One was military sexual trauma, and then also just PTSD from the things that I saw and how to process that. And so, with full transparency, those are some things that will be a part of me for the rest of my life, but whole health has really been able to make sure that I can say I'm a survivor of that, and that this is something that I don't just talk about to people that come to mindfulness classes, but I also want to practice what I preach with that, and that mental health really matters. I think the more times, and this is at least some of my self-care too, that when I share with others and be more transparent instead of trying to still have that stigma on mental health, that especially in family, friends, and coworkers, then people say, I feel that way too. I'm so glad that you shared your story so I won't feel what? Alone and isolated. So, with mindful awareness, since that's one of my biggest things that I like to do with my self care, and that can also flow into the power of the mind, mindfulness is everywhere. And it's been around for thousands of years, but I think definitely in the height of COVID and how mental health really got shine the light on, that people are starting to say, well, let me tap into mindfulness. I want to let you know that there's been, extensive research that speaks to mindfulness, from how efficacious it is, how efficient it is, from different medical and nursing journals, and then also in the secular community. Um, One thing is, mindfulness is not a religion. I know a lot of times people think that it is. Now, if you want to bring your religion or spirituality into that, you can. But this is a secular practice, even though, yes, it was birthed in the Buddhist tradition thousands of years ago. But I didn't want that to, sometimes for some people, that can be a barrier if they feel like this is going against some of their values when it comes to spirit and soul. So, what is it? We've been talking about that it is the practice of being present intentionally, and then fully being aware of these three things: your physical sensations, your thoughts, and your emotions, but without judging them. And so that's probably was the hardest thing for me to do, is to not judge when I was in a mindfulness practice. But we have to look at it just if it was something physical that we do. If you haven't ran in a while and you get on the treadmill and you put it on 6.0, you're quickly going to stop. So extend grace to yourself and say, these are things that I can build upon when I have a mindfulness practice. We definitely know that we need it. You can see the personal as well as professional benefits that you can scan there. I can say personally for me, it definitely reduces the stress, but also an improvement on attention to detail, because mindfulness is not having an idle mind. Again, because we're looking at those being fully present and fully aware inside of our bodies at that time. But then I can see just my attention that's needed in other areas of my life. We're able also to start to improve, and then just a closeness with those relationships that I have. So now we're looking at the 9 attitudes of mindfulness. We have first non-judging, because it says that in the definition, not to judge what you're feeling, but just being able to openly embrace it. The other part of mindfulness is patience, because some people want to get it and get it that first time, but it's the patience of the growth that's going to unfold as you keep having a mindfulness practice for yourself. Beginner's mind with mindfulness is, in a way, even we can take a lot of our life experiences, a lot of our degrees that we have, and those are very important, but really come to mindfulness with a curiosity, almost like a childlike mind, to say, I'm not going to have any of my thoughts or any preconceived notions or knowledge that I may have towards mindfulness, but I just want to come in with a blank slate of having that beginner's mind, and try to experience this as it was if it was my first time ever trying to practice it. Trust. Trust with mindfulness is coming more with trust with yourself, and then trust with your own intuition, and trusting the process of what mindfulness will be able to bring to your life. Non-striving. Non-striving when it comes to mindfulness. And when I teach the classes, a lot of people will say, how do I get from point A to point B with mindfulness? And the answer is to be fully present at A, to not try to strive to get to that next step, and also to not try to strive for that mindfulness practice to give you anything. Some people say, oh, I want to do mindfulness for relaxation and, for stress management. And that's all in well. That will naturally happen. But we don't want you to strive for that to happen, because then that can actually start to um, bring even more stress if you feel like, well, I didn't feel relaxed at the end of that. I must be doing something wrong. Just this time, have that non-striving. Acceptance. This is the acceptance of what life will bring us. And a lot of things, what mindfulness will teach us is not to cling to anything. So cling to nothing and push away nothing, but just accept. Letting go. Letting go in your mindfulness practice is similar to when you finally lay down and, right before you go to sleep, whatever it is that you do, whether, that's prayer, you journal, but then there's a spot in the body that it lets go. And then your eyes close and then you fall asleep. So for a lot of people, they'll say, Brandy, I just can't let go. I said, you do, because you let go every night when you fall asleep. And this is the kind of the same premise when it comes to mindfulness. Let go and let the body be in that moment of practice. And then gratitude. Gratitude with mindfulness, because it reminds us that we're all on our own path of suffering, and to have gratitude for the times that you're not in suffering, and gratitude to humanity and all living things. When you're able to practice mindfulness, that you can have gratitude and appreciation for that. People that normally practice mindfulness, the last part is so easy to give, because now they know that it's larger than themselves, and that again, all living beings need help, and you're able to give that generosity. So triangle of awareness, again, right there in the center. What does it mean to be mindfully aware? These are the things that we're looking at with mindful awareness: emotions, body sensations, and then thoughts. And the other part, when we're looking at the 5 facets of mindfulness, is observing. So you're actually observing what your thoughts and emotions are, and describe what that feels like in your mind. Do you feel coolness or different temperature on a different area of your body? Or does an emotion, how can you describe that emotion? Acting with awareness, which is just holding it in gentle space, but non-reactivity to the inner experience. So interactivity or reactivity to that. Let's say we're doing mindfulness and you want to scratch your nose. In due time, you won't react to that and scratch the nose. You can just be able to notice it. And the last part is non-judging of the inner experience when you're practicing mindfulness. This is not an exhaustive list, but these are formal and informal practices of mindful awareness and meditation. With mindfulness, you can do mindfulness as you're doing life. So even when I drive in my car, I can do mindful awareness of noticing what body sensations feel like as I'm pressing the gas, or where am I holding my hands on the steering wheel, any emotions that may be coming up. But meditation is when you're actually setting out time to do nothing but meditate. So those are the 2 ways when we look at formal practice or informal practice. You can see here breath awareness, seated meditation. For some people that feel like I cannot sit for 5 minutes or 15 minutes, it's wonderful that we also have moving and walking meditation. Mindful eating, really exploring our plate, but really taking note of what's on our plate. What does it smell like? What does it taste like? Can I hold it in my mouth for just a few seconds before I begin to chew that? Compassion practice, because we all need more self-compassion and just compassion for the world. A contemplative prayer, if someone wants to bring their prayer life into that. A mantra repetition, body scan, where you're scanning your entire body, just to see what your body is saying to you. It talks to you all the time, but sometimes we're too busy to actually listen and bring awareness to that. love and kindness meditation. And then the last is choiceless awareness to whatever comes up in the mind for you just to kind of hold that and observe it. So, with that, I would like to invite you to just do a quick mindfulness practice with me. I ask you to uncross your legs and your arms and no multitasking, so no emails. You can place your hands on your thigh, palm up or down, wherever you feel most comfortable, and close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that. And begin just to drop within stillness, bringing the focus inward and connecting to the breath. Noticing the breathing and where you feel the breath the most. Perhaps it could be in your abdomen as your belly expands and contracts with each breath. Or the rise and fall of your chest. Perhaps maybe the tip of your nose. Wherever you notice the breath the most in the body, bring awareness to that body part. Noticing how on the inhale, the breath is cooler, and on the exhale, it's warmer through the nose. Bring awareness to the breath to see if you're breathing fast or slow, shallow or deep, without changing anything, but just noticing. Now begin to scan your body from your feet up to your head, just exploring the body for any areas of softness or rigidness, and breathing into that space as we scan the feet, ankles, lower leg, knees, upper leg, abdomen, lower back, mid back, upper back, the chest area, the upper limbs of the hands, arms, shoulders, the neck, and the full face, scalp, and ears. With each breath, notice how the body begins to soften. And if your mind begins to wander, that's okay, as it will. Just gently bring it back to the breath. I invite you to place your hand over your heart and repeat after me silently in your head. I am enough. I am worthy of love. I forgive myself and others. I am enough. I am worthy of love. I forgive myself and others. And one last time, I am enough. I am worthy of love. I forgive myself and others. Bring awareness to any emotions that may be arising in the heart center with that practice, or where you feel it the most. You can place your hand back on your thigh and take a few last breaths, riding the wave of the breath through the body. Inhaling through the top of the head, letting that wave go through the body, exiting to the feet, and inhaling again. You can do a few of those breaths on your own. And as we begin to close this practice, remember that the breath is always a constant friend, where you can always come here to ground and center yourself. I invite you to bring movement back into your body. You can wiggle your fingers or toes, stretch where the body needs it. And when you're ready to rejoin the virtual room, open your eyes. All right. Thank you so much for practicing with me. For anyone that would like to come off mute and put your voice in the room to give some feedback on how that experience was for you. Or also we can put it in the chat if Ms. Gray, if you could monitor the chat for me, because with my screen up, I can't see the chat. And there's no right or wrong experience. Remember, there's none striving, but just noticing any self-awareness that resonated for you with the practice.
Thank you, Brandy. It was just really nice it just helps me to come into a grounded space. So thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
I would like to add that for me, it's, I've been to where they tell you to repeat words like that before, but I guess what really touched me in this time is there was something that you said that I have never said to myself that you had us say. And that was that I forgive myself. I've never said that to myself.
Yeah.
And that was the moment for me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Because how can we give, that to others without giving it to ourselves first? That's that self-care.
Right.
That's that self-care. Thank you. Any in the chat box, Miss Gray, before we move on?
No.
Okay. Sounds good.
Well, I
Now,
just wanted to say
yeah.
thank you, Brandy. That was awesome. And actually, I have a sound machine in my office that plays the sounds of beach waves. So I just felt like I was on the beach. So this was great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so happy that it landed well. Now, for some people that brave souls, they don't want to come on, but you were probably thinking, my mind was going a mile a minute. I can't do that. I can't keep up with that. That's okay. My suggestion or challenge is, can you try it maybe 10 more times, because it is part of power of the mind? Or let's look at something different, because there are a lot of different ways of mindfulness to practice mindfulness. And then meditation. It could be walking or moving. For some people, they can be mindful when they're listening to music, but still with that triangle of awareness of what they feel within. Okay. And so we come back now to this with our circle of health, things that you can be able to do for yourself. I would like, and this is just if you want to do the homework, because it's all about, okay, self-care, where do I get started? That first thing is, what are one of these domains on the circle that you're going to say, I need to lean into that a little bit more and explore around that area? And then what's going to be a goal that you'll put in that area when it comes to self-care? So how you can manage it and also to keep yourself accountable. For example, so if I said, okay, I would like to do mine more with family, friends, and coworkers, because full transparency, sometimes if you don't call me, I think about calling you or texting you, but then the busyness of life. So if I'm going to say I'm going to put, more effort into that, what will that look like? That I will text at least once a week, or will I text at least every 2 weeks to say, I'm just thinking about you. When can maybe we get together to catch up? But and then in that, hopefully, that I'm creating that and cultivating even a stronger relationship there. So then, as part of my self care, I am building those relationships. So that's just an example. I also talked to a friend yesterday, hers. She's choosing surroundings, and she's going to start very small with the herb garden of, I think she said, rosemary and mint, with also the spring coming in. It's a good time to be planting those things, but that's a surrounding in her physical environment that's going to be giving her that self care. So that is one thing that I will leave with you guys. And the biggest takeaway from today, after then I'll open up for questions and answers on either VA, the circle of health, or other things that you may have questions about with holistic or whole health. But is to remember self-care. Sorry about this light. Self-care is not selfish, and self-care it can have some passive things in there, but to bring more active things that you can do for yourself to give you that gift in the power of pausing. All right. So with that, I think we have 5 more minutes where we can open it up for any questions or comments over the things today. And even though if I know we're not veterans, or everyone's not a veteran in the room, but even if you have a question about the veteran community in the Montgomery area that I might be able to answer for you, I'm open to that. Okay. Well, hearing none, I will pass it back over to you, Dr. Gray. I think we still have 4 minutes, and I thank you guys so much again for allowing me to come and be on this platform, and for extending grace with the technical difficulties and kind of getting on a little bit past schedule. Thank you. And I'll give it back to you, Dr. Gray.
Thank you so much, Brandy Taylor, our sister and our friend, and may I call you the mindfulness extraordinaire. Oh, that was amazing. That was something I really personally wasn't expecting. And as I was participating in that exercise, and especially when you were guiding us through each step, and you said, pay attention to the softness of your body. Oh, I was like in heaven then. It teaches me how to definitely not only pay attention to the breath, our best friend, but the emotions and the how our body responds to the mindfulness practice. And so I personally want to say thank you for that. And I most definitely needed it. It was the most perfect time. I called myself on a personal note, called myself doing this some years ago when I was a classroom teacher, and especially in the morning times prior to starting the work day, and then on my planning period. And then as an entrepreneur, I will have a quick moment of doing the mindfulness practice prior to, right before the start of my after school art students and music students. But I guess I was doing it wrong because with the way that you guided us today, the response of it that I received was totally different than in past. And yes, the speaking to the self, and as our sister stated before, I forgive myself. That was definitely what I needed as well. So thank you so very much. We have so many various backgrounds and diverse that are joining us tonight, or excuse me, today. And we have different experiences in our work field, and we have just a different group of individuals that are on with us, joining us, but yet something as mindfulness and just being able to apply the circle of health applies to every human being. And yes, you confirmed something I wanted to share. That's a part of the circle of health. One of the components about recharging. That's what I have to work on. We could rest, but to recharge is something extra. And I just updated my dream board, and that is exactly what is on the dream board. So thank you for the confirmation.
Oh, yes, my pleasure. And thank you again, just for being able that it can resonate. I also don't mind sharing the slides with you, Dr. Gray, and then you can get it out to the other participants so that they can kind of just use that circle of health as, a launching pad with their self-care and what they would like to do. I know we're right at 12:30, but one last thing that I did forget to say as far as what being a mindfulness facilitator at VA, but also a mindfulness facilitator at Alabama State University with the She Care Pods, with, Taraji P. Henson and also Kate Spade, New York, with that grant to allow right now, the student female body at ASU to learn how important self-care is and putting their mental health there. And I'm thinking if I would have been able to get this when I was 18 or 19, oh my, it would have been a game changer. But it's great whenever you get it in life, but we're just, so happy that we're able to give it to them now. But for YouTube is still a great place if you just want to say, let me go on YouTube and type in mindfulness guided scripts so that you can, have someone to listen into. And then we do have the mindfulness coach. That's a free app on Android or iPhone that I use and also give to my veterans to download. So if they want to be able to practice mindfulness, on their own, they're able to do that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing about your services with the She Care Pods. And that leads to part 2 of our whole health series, talking about whole health. Dr. Joyce Lloyd Davis will be with us on next week, and she will give us more information about the She Care Pods at Alabama State University. So those that are tuning in and that is a part of us, feel free to register and don't miss out. This conversation continues on next Wednesday. Once again, let's give it up for Brandy Taylor, our mindfulness extraordinaire, our whole health sister that's keeping us healthy and strong. Thank you so much, Brandy Taylor. Until next time, we say thank you, and we will see you again. To everyone, be blessed.